Conservative media has piled on against gymnast Simone Biles for bowing out for competition at the Olympic Games. So now, the reason that she had bowed out is over concerns of her mental health. So now, look, I'm not a sports guy. I could give a damn about the Olympics. I'd give a damn about sports. Sorry, not sorry. But this is important because it actually deals with mental health and how conservatives are really downplaying the effects of mental health. Okay. So here, I'm going to read some from the Daily Beast about more of the sports stuff. Biles had followed up an uncharacteristically sloppy preliminary round with an unusually poor start in the team event on Tuesday. She said that later on that was a result of not being in the right headspace. She had then withdrew after looking lost during her first vault attempt. I don't know what vaulting is. Whatever. I think of vaults and I think of Fallout for some reason, or I think of Borderlands 2, or et cetera, right? So those are my games. Olympic games, not my games. Video games, definitely my games. But anyway, so all right, let's get into the substance here. So headspace, right? All right. What does that mean? Well, it means mentally you're in a place where you can't concentrate, focus, and basically overall you can't put out 100%. Makes sense, right? That you would step down. Perfectly valid reason not to compete if you're not feeling if you feel like you're not going to be an asset to the team. It makes a lot of sense to bow out. Makes sense to me, okay? Now here's what she said. Here's what they said from the Daily Beast. After her error-prone preliminary round, meanwhile, Biles hinted that she was dealing with increased pressure and potential mental health challenges, writing on social media, quote, "I truly do feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders at times." Sure. And again, understand that pressure can get to anybody. You don't have to have a mental illness to have pressure get to you. Okay? And so it can happen to anybody, especially if you've dealt with, again, some pretty traumatic things. So now as a result, Team USA won the silver medal. Oh, but it wasn't the gold medal, guys. And I don't really care. I don't give a goddamn. So you might ask, okay, look, why was she there at all then to compete if she wasn't feeling up to herself? You know what? I actually think that's a fair question. And actually, the answer to that, I think, is that it goes back to pressure to perform. Everybody looks to you, and Simone Biles is an incredibly talented gymnast. Okay, so apparently she had won these things before, won a lot of national championships, and so they're looking at her. I mean, obviously, you got to be really good to make it in the Olympics, right? And so, all right, that pressure of, hey, man, look, hey, like, you performed incredibly well. Here you are, center stage. We were expecting you to perform top notch, top tier. So understand that, like, all right, not everybody can be top tier all the time, 100% of the time, especially, again, when you're dealing with certain issues. Now, I'm going to get into those issues a little bit later, but here's what she said. Quote, "I know that this Olympic Games, I wanted it to be for myself." A tearful Biles said afterwards, "I came here and I felt like I was still doing it for other people. So that it just hurts my heart that doing what I love has been taken away from me to please other people." Now, look, anybody who's ever been in the public eye to like perform, to do something like that, you might have experienced this already. You get to a point where maybe you're doing it to, you're going through the motions to make sure that you do it for, would it be the fans, coaches in this case, your parents, your family, whatever. People that are counting on you, your team, they support you, etc., right? So, but here's the thing. If you can't perform, you're not in the right headspace to perform, then you can't perform. If you can't perform your best, you're going to let people down, and you don't want to do that. And so if you're dealing with certain things, like, for example, PTSD, anxiety, etc., then you might not be able to perform 100%. That's not always the case, of course. And it really does depend on the person and how they process and how they deal with things, and what, ultimately, what path of, I guess, mental healing they take, right? And what makes them feel better. In this case, performing at the Olympics did not make Simone Biles feel better. It really wasn't therapeutic. So now, I said I was going to go to the issues here. Well, one of the issues that Biles had faced that's really been weighing on her was actually sexual abuse by former Team USA doctor Larry Nassar. Now, that was a huge, huge case. What was it, like last year? Gigantic case. I mean, hundreds of girls abused by this doctor. I mean, that's horrifying. Sexual abuse. And so, understandably, that's going to have gigantic detrimental effects on somebody, especially if that is related to the thing that you're doing. So now, it turns out that she has been in therapy and suffers from anxiety. She takes anxiety medications and things like that as a result of this, PTSD, etc. And so, all right. Now, her return to the games this year, in her words, was largely about being a voice for sexual assault survivors. That's respectable, commendable, absolutely. I feel like if there weren't a remaining survivor in the sport, they would have just brushed it to the side. Now, she makes a good point there, because I could definitely see that. Oh boy. I could definitely see that happen. Because, again, it's happened in a lot of different sports. They push these things aside. Brock Turner is a great example. They push the whole thing aside. And they focus on, well, but a kid can do sports, so that's fine. We shouldn't punish them. We should still allow them to be in the swim team or whatever. Or, the team, franchise, the sport comes first over everything and everyone else. Yeah, I happen to not agree with that. All right? I don't agree with that. I think mental health is incredibly important. And so, again, Simone Biles' intentions were good in going to the game, but unfortunately, that trauma was still deeply affecting her. And so, not to get like super, 2000s emo, but it's a scar on the inside. But it is true. It is true. And at the end of the day, she wasn't ready to come back. And she realized that when she was there. And you know what? That's okay. I think that's okay. And that is, of course, unless you're a member of conservative media who decided that they were just going to use this opportunity to go as low as possible and to attack her for not sportsing hard enough. Yeah. So first, we'll start with talk radio hosts Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, who recently took over the afternoon slot by Rush Limbaugh, who, by the way, I should remind you, is still dead. They said, quote, "The Blue Checks have already rallied to Simone Biles' defense and said, 'Oh, it's so brave.' Why is this brave? What's brave about not being brave? Because that's what we're talking about. This is, oh, you didn't stand up to the bully, so to speak? No, I think that's not the brave move." These guys are gross. How about those two, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton? How about you fuck off? All right? You think it's easy for somebody to go all that way, to put in all that work, to then get to that point and not be able to compete? Knowing that you put in all this time and all this effort and in all this work, and just not being able to perform up to the standards, up to your own standards, right? And that's got to be a devastating feeling. Devastating. And not only that, but opening up about something that you wouldn't think is taboo, like, oh, mental health, right? Apparently it is, judging from the conservative reaction. You have a lot of people that are like, oh, how dare you talk about mental health, mental problems. That's not a real thing. Whatever. Next up, Piers Morgan. Great. Quote, "Are mental health issues now the go-to excuse for any poor performance in elite sport? What a joke. Just admit you did badly, made mistakes, and will strive to do better next time. Kids need strong role models, not this nonsense." what? Okay, here's what I think this guy means, right? Oh, let's just go back to the time where nobody was open about how how they felt. Let's go back to 1950s when people with public, or people with mental health issues, right? Mainly men, let's be honest. We just smile, pretend everything's okay in public, and then get blackout drunk and beat their wives. And that's generally what happened back in the 1950s instead of actually getting mental health care. All right? So that's the kind of world, understand, that they want to go back to. Oh, it's back to the time when men are men, and they hide everything. I don't know why I'm doing Trump hands. But yeah, let's just go back to that and just hide everything and just pretend to be manly and masculine while we're literally exploding and melting inside from, bottling up everything. Oh, it was great. No, that's horrible. I actually like that we're able to be honest and open with mental issues that affect everyone. Yes, people get anxiety. People get depressed. People have issues. People are not able to always perform at 100%. People should not be asked to, especially men, by the way. And this is a part of that toxic masculinity we talked about. What's toxic is not masculinity itself. What's toxic is bottling everything up and pushing it down and pretending like everything's okay. And when everything's not okay, that's why there is, a higher, a rising level of suicide. I don't know if it's rising, but, levels of suicide among men. And that's why you have movements of, involuntary celibates and things like that. You have these men that aren't able to be themselves, that aren't able to be human beings. And so they take it out on everything and they go misogynistic and they get toxic. And it's incredibly gross and super damaging to men and also damaging to everyone around them and women too. And it's, more acceptable for women to be more open with their emotions, but apparently not if you do sport. At least according to these chuds. All right. There's more. Conservative writer Amber Athey, for her part, says Biles is a quitter, while arguing that she lacked mental toughness and was self-centered for only deciding to withdraw after the competition had started. No mental toughness. What a quitter. What a terrible self-centered person. Only thinking about herself and not the team. No, that's the reason she stepped down and let the rest of her team take over. And yeah, it didn't get imagine if they had gotten the gold medal, probably like half the criticisms wouldn't be there if they won the gold. But let's be honest about that. I think it's more about, in some ways, winning for some of these people, getting the shiny medal and say, yeah, we're number one over anything else. But part of that, yeah. Anyway, here's what she said, quote, "Is it all that surprising that somebody this overconfident, some might say arrogant, oh, they're calling her arrogant now, would struggle to mentally rebound from a poor performance?" She wrote. Here's the thing about toughness, all right? Simone Biles is actually really tough. She had competed and won with broken toes in both feet. And also with a kidney stone. She won a world event. Kidney stone. Come on. That's fortitude right there. And all the other times that she had won, she was off her game. And it's because of a lot of what happened to her. But here's the thing that I think is really, really funny, actually. People that are criticizing her for not being tough literally supported a guy who doesn't even know what foot he had bone spurs in order to get out of Vietnam. Come on, dude. Are you serious? Are you serious right now? Like, that's the people you look up to. Oh, mental fortitude. All right. Or physical fortitude, by the way. Oh, by the way, the same conservatives who are so-called tough guys, they're also the ones crying about having to wear a mask at the grocery store. Shut up. Just shut up. They all need to shut the fuck up. Okay, anyway. No, I've got more. The Federalist weighed in Editor John Daniel Davidson, here's what they said. Biles doesn't suffer from a specific mental illness, at least not that we know of, or that's never manifested itself before. So he's basically calling her a liar. What she experienced wasn't that. It was something more common among professional athletes. She got psyched out, meaning that she's weak, etc., and is making excuses. Quote, she wasn't mentally tough when she needed to be. That's fine. It happens to LeBron all the time. And when it does, you can tell he stops trying and lets his team lose. But instead of being ashamed of that or apologizing to her teammates and her countrymen, Biles seems to revel in taking care of her mental health, whatever that means. Why the fuck would you be ashamed at taking care of your mental health? For me, okay, I look at it this way, right? I look at mental health as sort of like the same way of looking at health to the rest of your body, right? So, like, you break your arm, you're in a cast. That makes sense. You go through something like sexual abuse, but you also need time for that to heal, and you need to process that. It's just like a part of your body that gets injured. Your emotional well-being is also an important part of who you are. So yes, it's important to have both physical and mental health and well-being. Both of those things need to be addressed, and I'm tired of conservatives ignoring that other, the mental health of people. They just rather, no, tough it out, stuff it down. It doesn't matter, not real. Like, shut up. You know absolutely fucking nothing. All right, more. Oh, and by the way, yes, the whole point of course, taking care of yourself is to make sure also, not only that you're healthy, but also that if you are in sports, you're able to perform at peak efficiency in order to win those shiny medals that everybody seems obsessed about. And if you don't take care of yourself, you do risk it not being able to live up to that potential. And speaking of not living up to any potential, I'm going to show you a video of Charlie Kirk.
So Simone Biles, who's obviously a very talented gymnast, decided not to compete in the gold medal competition. Now, she probably could have just competed and just kind of checked the boxes and they would have got a gold medal. Today, it's like, you know what? I'm not going to do something stupid and get hurt. It's just not worth it, especially when you have like 3 amazing athletes that can step up to the plate and do it. So you know who has the gold medal? Russia. Russia. I have to go look at these 4'11" Russian Olympians chewing on their gold medals, smirking at the Americans. I'm not okay with that. But honestly, that's where we're headed. We are raising a generation of weak people like Simone Biles. Again, if you want to be, if she got all these mental health problems, don't show up. She's an incredible athlete. Of course she's an incredible athlete. I'm not saying, I just said she's probably the greatest gymnast of all time. She's also very selfish, she's immature, and she is a shame to the country. She's totally a sociopath. Of course she's a sociopath. Andrew said she's not a sociopath. What kind of person skips the gold medal match? Who does that? It's a shame to the nation. You just gave a gift to the Russians. Don't show up. If you're not ready for the big time, we got thousands of young female gymnasts that would love to take the place. Thousands. Simone Biles just showed the rest of the nation that when things get tough, you shatter into a million pieces.
Sociopath. Yeah, even his own audience is like, dude, not a sociopath. What the fuck are you on about? I swear to God, this guy's, as his head expands, his brain gets tinier, as well as his face. Okay, the thing that frustrates me here is the whole thing is over stupid metal. It really is. Putting a piece of metal, I guess bragging rights. Hey, you know what? The Russian women won. Good for them. Like, well played. Congratulations. Right? You got it. Even though Russia is technically banned, whatever. Like, I don't really care. As far as that goes. Great. They outperformed. Wonderful. That's the whole point, right? You try to outperform each other, and then there it is. You get the stupid shiny little medal. All right. So, but no, And the thing is, and the important thing about this, is here you got somebody who is putting the bragging rights and the stupid little medal, over the health and well-being of a human being, of a person. But understand that too, that makes sense for the right. They put profits over people all the time. They put corporations over people all the time. They put guns, inanimate objects over people. They pretty much put everything over the well-being and health of people. I mean, they think corporations are better people than people are. So of course, and in a country, in a country where we have 50,000 plus people that die a year from lack of health care, they can't get health care in this country, right? Because they can't afford it. I guess it makes sense that somebody like Charlie Kirk, who lives in that country, would have the opinion that he does. And by the way, as far as being immature and a shame on the country, it ain't Simone Biles. It's people like Charlie Kirk for being a complete and utter douche canoe. I hope Simone Biles is able to work through, the issues, the things that happened to her, and that she can come back strong. She can come back strong, and she can come back healthy and continue to do the things that make her happy. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.